Hello and welcome back to the Lease Summit Town Hall podcast. I am your host, Nick Parker. Just a quick reminder to the good people that our podcast is brought to you by Budget Blinds of Lease Summit, a great local family running a great local business. It is your home for enlightened style shades. It's also your home if you want those robot shades, if you want to be able to control them with your phone or your smart device. You can do that there. You can even go, hey, Siri, raise my shades. It'll work. It's pretty awesome. So when you're ready to make your home an awesome home, go see our friends at Budget Blinds right in the heart of downtown. Tell them Nick sent you. All right, my guest today, I'm a little excited. I'm not sure. I have like 2 or 4 or 6 topics I really want to go to, so who knows exactly where we're going. But my guest today, Demetrios Walker, the Community and Engagement Business Partner for ReDiscover, is with us today. Welcome, Demetrios.
Hey, hello, everyone, and thank you for having me. Appreciate you.
I don't know if you know this or not, but I've been kind of chasing you for a while. There might have been some internet stalking. There might have been me trying other avenues of people, because you're everywhere, all over town, and So theoretically, I think this is awesome that you're running all over town because, look, ReDiscover is this kind of little known gem in our town. Like, they're doing a ton of work in the healthcare field and for our community and, the surrounding communities with ReDiscover. But I also feel like there's a lot of people that don't quite know what all ReDiscover does. Like, we know, hey, they've got a lot of office buildings. We know there's some counseling going on, but that's kind of, I think, where the well-known story ends. So I'm glad to have you on so that you can kind of, preach the gospel a little bit of ReDiscover, but I think to let people know what we have here in our community.
Yeah, no doubt. I definitely appreciate it. So before I go into what I do and my role with ReDiscover, and how I have the opportunity to contribute and help this community and communities across the metropolitan area, I'm going to read a little bit about what we do as ReDiscover. So ReDiscover is compassionate about healthcare. We're passionate about people, okay? ReDiscover is a nonprofit community mental health center that provides comprehensive programs and services for adults and children whose lives have been affected by mental illness and or substance use disorders, all right? If you are in acute mental crisis, we offer immediate intensive care and a safe place for you to heal from mental traumas, substance use. ReDiscover provides assessment and substance use disorder treatment to develop sobriety and mental stability. Our crisis outreach, you can receive immediate phone or face-to-face intervention to help resolve crisis and make a referral for treatment 24 hours daily. All right, and that number is 1-888-279-8188. If you want to make a general appointment, you can call our main line for our behavioral health services. That's at 816-966-0900. And that's Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we also have opioid treatment clinics, which is 816-965-1151. One last thing, and our 24/7 line is 844-994-HEAL. So
it's almost like you knew I was going to ask you for those numbers.
I don't know, but I wanted to make sure I cover them before I get into what I do and the opportunity that I have to serve. And that's just a quick, kind of holistic view of what we do and who we are.
And that's a lot. In like 40 seconds, you just said a lot, right? So so kind of break down a little bit when you're out and you're kind of given the spiel, and I hate to break it down to something that's simple of a word, right?
Yeah.
But when you are out talking about ReDiscover and you're finding new partners, but you're also telling people, hey, we have this available.
Yeah.
So what's that story that you're telling?
No, it's for me, ReDiscover tells its own story. Right? I came within the organization and seen a great opportunity that they already had going. So it was my role, my responsibility to contribute and help it expand, right? So when I joined the organization, I believe it was like 200 and something employees. Now we have like 750 plus, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't think people know that.
Yeah. And so my role joining the organization is to create learning and development for our employees so they can understand how to meet our clients where they are, having that adaptability, but also understanding the cultural competency of who we serve, right? So everybody comes from different backgrounds, different walks of life. socioeconomic statuses, every walk of life, right? A myriad of differences and backgrounds. So, my job is to, when we get our employees on all of our onboarding, our quarterly trainings, is to give them the education, because you have to have the education to be able to serve. A lot of our employees come to us, they're already professionals, right? They have their credentials, they're licensed, they have maybe a master's, they have a bachelor's, whatever, or they may just have experience, right? Because we work with, people like that as well. So when they come to me, it's my job to provide education and to provide learning and development. So therefore, when they get to their respective divisions, they can be productive, they can be sustainable, but also reach their maximum potential.
So you're working both kind of inward and outward.
Yes, sir, I am.
In your position.
Yes, yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And from there, you said inward and outward. I call that internal and external. Same
Right,
deal,
yeah,
right. So our community outreach. So once we have even right now, just our ongoing learning and development, our training, our internal, initiatives that we have that,
I'm trying to beat up my equipment here.
My bad, I'm sorry. That structures our pillars and our strategic plans. We also have our partnerships and our stakeholders that are in our community outreach umbrella. So if you're talking about our ethnic enrichment festival, Juneteenth festivals, we've even done things with our Matty Roads, Prodeo, all these different, companies and organizations. Like we really take pride in building relationships, right? Partnering, figuring out how we can, outreach and give our services out in the community, but also let people know and other organizations know that it's accessible. Right. Well, some people don't know that.
Let's use as an example. We'll talk about one of our. And I know I'm not supposed to have favorites as a member of the media, but let's talk about one of our favorites, Prodeo.
Okay.
And really, it's just look. I love Elaine Metcalf.
She's awesome.
I'll just say that out loud.
Absolutely.
But so that is a youth center. So it's youth focused organization.
Yes.
In town. What is that part? What are you doing together? Like what is the superpower when you guys combine? Like what are you guys doing for each other?
So there's two components with that, right? My role in that situation and with Prodeo, the youth, is once again providing learning and development, right? And so in my role, I've provided learning and development with their employees, as well as engagement and learning opportunities with students. So that's my role when it comes to Prodeo, what I do, how to bridge that gap. Because in my role, my overall objective, arching, is to bridge the gap, identify,
what is that gap? And I guess what I'm looking for,
ahead.
what are like services or programs that Prodeo that ReDiscover brings to Prodeo. I'm wondering what those gaps are that you're looking for, and then how you. Well, and now I'm doing it. See, I'm I'm trying to be like the athlete guy. I want to be cool. But so what are those gaps, and how what are the gaps that you're looking for and you're finding, and how are you filling that from the ReDiscover perspective?
Resources, right? We offer several resources for our youth, the adults and youth, right? So when you talk about our suicide prevention, our 988s, also our programs that offer information on substance use, our mental health. We talk about, when you look at teens and their questions about depression, anxiety. Well, we offer those services and we offer those resources to Prodeo to collaborate, to make sure that they are available and accessible to the youth, because it's like a taboo. Some people like to talk about it, some people don't like to, but we're talking about it. And we've had even our initiative that we had with with Prodeo last year. I think you was there. You was there.
Your community conversation.
There you go. Community conversations with Prodeo and us. So that's an example of what we do, how we bridge that gap. In that session that we had, in that initiative, we talked about what the youth felt. What is depression and anxiety? How to talk to parents. What resources do we provide? How to meet them where they are. Valuing their feedback. So those are some of the initiatives that we do with Prodeo and the community, as well as making sure that we have the resources available for them and to meet them where they are.
What did you learn from that? I think we can talk about that a little bit because, look, I was there, and that was great. You had, 15, 18 youth, right, from our various schools, high schools. I don't know if you pulled any from the private schools at all. They might have all been public. I don't know.
Remember, but
yeah, you had 15, 18 youth, and they were spanning. It looked like you were, from what I heard, that they were spanning the economic spectrum. They were spanning the racial spectrum, right? Like you had a little bit of sample, everybody, and then you had a bunch of parents and some grandparents. You had us olds in there too,
which we need everybody. We need everybody.
You do. But what'd you learn? What like as a professional who's in it every day, and you're trying to let people know about the problems and the resources? What did you learn from that?
Social and emotional wellness is very important. That's what I learned. Not only did we have the parents and the grandparents that we need, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here, right? Period. Then we had the youth. Then we had other professionals and stakeholders that was a part of the community that was there as well. So I learned that social and emotional wellness, well-being is very important. And no matter what we do in society, that's what keeps us going. And we have to make sure we address it and make sure that we're okay. And it's okay to not be okay, right? And it's okay to raise your hand and say, I need some help, right? So I learned that's one of the things I learned. The other thing I learned is that our youth, I've always known this, but they have a voice, right? And if we just listen, we can continue to bridge that gap and meet them where they are to give them the help that they need.
I'm curious what you think about that, and you work with youth all the time through this job. Through you're a coach with some football programs, so you're with kids all the time. I do a program, a podcast project with teens every year called I Can Relate, and then they get to pick their topics, and and that's how I think how you and I met actually was through a part of that. But I'm curious what your perspective is, because you just brought that up. Our kids have a voice. Every year I do this project, and I just think to myself, yeah, let's just give these kids the keys. Like we can make all the generational jokes we want, right? like as we get older, we want to make fun of the next generation because it's easy and it's funny. But man, I look at a lot of these kids that I meet. They are smart and perceptive.
They're the future, man. You know, they're just like we were. Right? Think about when you were younger, when you were a teenager.
No, I was a jerk.
Yeah.
I mean,
no matter what background you come from or what behavior you had something, right? I believe it's our job to make sure we help them find that. If we're in a collaborative space and we value what they're saying and really involve them in decision making, just like you said, you let them pick the topic. Those little things go a long way. You letting a young person pick a topic helps them have that ownership, right? It helps them take that initiative to say, you know what, I picked the topic today, right? I can do this. You maybe just empowered the next CEO, right? Or manager or director or leader off of what you just gave them. So yes, it's very important to understand that, yes, they have a voice, they are a future. And in a collaborative approach, I can learn, you can learn, and they can learn something too, right? I think that's what you get out of that. And that's the jewel, right, that you can take away.
Did you sense some of that from them as you talked about that after that program ended? Because like I said, there were 15, 18 youth.
Oh, yeah.
Most of them seemed ready to talk.
Well, I think they were ready to talk because we created a platform, right? Because I've been to different ones, right? You have to create a safe space. Right. I mean, sometimes that's hard. Sometimes you have to get, you have to be uncomfortable before you get comfortable, right? And so I believe that some of them came ready. But then some of them, as you know, like, I don't know, you know what I mean?
Right.
So you have to create that space where they feel like, okay, I can talk now. Like if I say this, it's going to matter, right? So therefore, now I'm more innovative. I feel like I can be myself. I can be my authentic self and ask the question without being judged or put down or dismissed. So absolutely, that's very important.
What did you, from that, and you can pull from other examples too. That's just one that I know I saw you at, and I witnessed. But, what have you learned? I guess, and I'll ask this first, maybe from the old's perspective. But I think from either side of that generational gap, were there things that you were like, oh, we got to work on that. We need to clear that conversation loop a little more. Were there pieces that you were like, we got to work here, we got to work harder?
Yeah. I think the addressing the taboo to talk about it. I think that's what it
That's
is.
still the thing.
It's still the
like
thing.
I feel like we've been saying that for years now.
Yeah, but you're going to have to keep saying it, right? Because that's what it is. I think just being able to talk about it and feeling like you can talk about it, that's been the I guess the one of the common denominators. Being able to talk about it, being to speak up and say, hey, I need help, or I'm struggling in this area when we're talking about mental health. I'm struggling in that area when I'm talking about substance use. You know what I mean? Or when we're talking about wellness or illness, right? It's being able to have that space and be comfortable to speak up and say, hey man, this is what I feel. But then on the other side, saying, okay, I hear you, and now let's help this person, right? Let's help this youth. Let's help this person, adult. Because it's a two-way street, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
If it's just one way, one side, it's not going to work, and that's the deal. It has to be both ways. So when you talk about the demographics, your millennials and your Generation X and baby boomers, like all of them are very important, and we can all learn from, and Generation Zs. I don't want to leave anybody out here and other, but we don't want to miss the opportunity to learn from each other, because like I stated, they can learn something from you, me, and we can learn something from them.
Do you feel like we need to keep, so you're saying kind of we need to keep having those kind
conversations?
Of
Yeah, you got to be able to talk
conversations
about it. Absolutely.
We give everybody the voice.
Yeah, but you got to have takeaways, right? So my thing is this: we're going to have like forums and talk. What action items are we going to follow up with, right? What are we going to create a strategic plan, or are we going to create action steps where we can have short goals that turn into long-term goals and we accomplish those? Are we going to track them? Because when you just have like conversations, which are great, because discussions can lead to other things and other things that transpire. But if you just talk about it, right, and there's no action and follow through about it, it won't be believable. It won't get done. And then anytime you bring it up, it'll just be like, we're just talking about it, and it's just there. Well, people want to make sure.
So what is that next step? What is the thing that we got to do after that?
Once a conversation is had, I always tell people action items. Get your action plan together. Get your strategic plan. How are you going to carry out? Because you're going to get a lot of great feedback and input from people, if it's adults or students. And they're going to give you, hey, we should do this. We should do A, B, and C, and D, E, and F should happen. Boom. So therefore, you begin to create those action steps and those action items that you create and put together with everybody, with the adults, the students, or whatever. And then at least accomplish, one, and set some deadlines, figure out how we're going to do it, right? Therefore, it's attainable and it's sustainable, right? And now we're getting it done.
That I love that. First off, it's, look, we sit in a lot of meetings in our lives. Having somebody that in a meeting that knows you got to leave with action items or nothing happens, right?
Right.
Otherwise, we just sat around and talked and had fun for an hour or 4, depending on who runs the meeting. How hard is that when you're dealing with different generations and perspectives, like to have everybody walk away knowing, hey, we got a next step?
Yeah. I say it's challenging. I don't say it's hard. I believe it's doable. I believe that if you build that relationship, and if you really, really want to work, right? Because here's the deal. I can provide 1,000 tools, the best tools ever, right? You can provide us tools. However, if a person does not want to participate or actually use them, it's never going to work, right? It'll just be tools laying on the table, right? If we say we need to nail this door together, and I say, okay, here's a hammer, here's a nail, just put the nails in the door and just give it a couple whops, and we'll have our door together. Well, then the person just says, I'll get it later, right? Hammer and nails there, I'll get it later, right? Day go by, 2 day goes by, 3 day, a week, and the door still's not fixed, right? It's not repaired. Well, you have the tools, but the person has to want to get up, get that hammer, get that nail, and begin to repair. Same deal when we're talking about these talks, these discussions, when we're talking about our social and emotional well-being, our mental health, our community outreach, our internal learning and development initiatives, we have to pick the hammer up and use the nail and begin to hammer to put these things together. We have to be ready to prepare and participate. So yes, it's hard, but if you really want to participate, you really have the tools to be to be successful, or you're willing to learn a new skill set with the tools given, it can be done. But you have to be willing to build that relationship, build the skill set, use the tools that are provided.
How does this all translate? I think, we could sit here and talk about, youth conversations and working on that for hours. And it's a great conversation to have. And I think, like you said, we need more of it. How does that translate to as you're out talking to other parts of the community? I mean, because you can't just focus on the youth.
Yeah, no.
We have lots of people. We're over 100,000 now.
For sure.
It's not all kids. So how does all this translate into you kind of out in the community, letting people, you're trying to spark these same conversations with different groups, but you're also trying to let them know, hey, there's some resources available.
For sure. You have to know your audience, right? You can't. So when I'm out in the community, you can't just give a one for all deal. Everybody is unique. Everybody's different. Everybody have different cultural backgrounds and beliefs. Everybody comes from different demographics. So you have to know your audience, right? So depending on what a person wants, that's when you begin to, meet them where they are. What they ask for, then you can respond. If it's a forum where it's open, where I'm able to provide the opportunity to give a resource or a learning and development educational session, then I'll give that. But I think at the minimum, you have to kind of like ease in it, and you have to know your audience. You have to know, what is the do's and don'ts? What are the boundaries, right? What is this person comfortable? What are they uncomfortable with, right? Is this a learning opportunity? Because everybody's going to make mistakes. I make mistakes. I'm not perfect, right? You know what I mean? And I tell people that all the time. You can't just, hold yourself hostage over, certain mistakes that you make, because you'll never be able to live. And I have to learn that too, right? So you're going to make the mistakes, but you have to just kind of meet people where they are. And that's how you assess that.
You said something real early in this conversation that I want to come back to, because when you opened up, you started talking about, my opportunity to serve.
Yeah.
And that is a very intentional choice of words.
Yeah.
I mean, it came across that way. So I'm curious, why? Why do you say that? What drives you in that?
Yeah, man. It's first of all, it's just what it is. I'm a transparent person, man. It's what it is. It's I know it's what I've been called to do, to serve. I've been doing it for a while. My grandmother, was, and my grandmother that's here still now has always been a big advocate in the community. Always served. I grew up in the underserved, marginalized minority areas in Kansas City. So I know exactly what that is. I know what it feels like to be a part of the underserved, not having to work up, all these different things, right? So it was not even a afterthought for me when I see opportunities like this to serve or to help people with health equity, with getting resources that they don't have, because I grew up and I didn't have them at all. I had to literally get them and learn and figure out this and figure out that on my own. Some opportunities was available through my church, you know what I mean? But other than that, I had to learn a lot of things on my own, and I didn't have those resources. I didn't even understand what services were, So to answer that question, it's intentional because it's intentional. It's intentional because it's me. It's what I am. It's what I was born and raised in. It's what my family's been doing. It's what I I intend to continue to do.
When you're out talking and you're making connections with other business leaders, owners, managers of local businesses, what is that conversation you're having about service? And I'm curious about this, because we're trying to, at Linksley Summit, we're really trying to push spotlights on service and organizations that are serving the community. And I'm curious, do you talk to people about that? Like, hey, we need you to serve with us, or is that your path?
So it depends. So like I said, it's depending on the audience. If I'm a leader or an executive that's asking me that, I will answer what I will answer, because we have so many different departments and positions within our organizations. So I don't want to overstep, right, or overlap, right? So if it's a question that I can answer and I can give, and answer it in its entirety, I'm going to answer it. If it's something that I do know, but then I'm like, that's somebody else's lane, I'm going to probably point them in that direction. But as far as services, I'm going to tell them about our services, what they need to know about us, what we do, what we can offer, what my department does. And then if they want to know more, I will connect them with the appropriate channels.
There you go. I'm I'm gonna apologize because I really wanted to spend some time and talk football with you. You had a fun football career yourself. You had some time in the show,
Right.
and you're still coaching. You're still a part of
Yes.
it. I'm gonna put a pause on that and ask. Hopefully, maybe you'll come back. Maybe a little closer to high school football season, and we'll have a little fun and we'll talk because you do have a good story that I would love to talk about and maybe share with everybody. But I want to be conscious of time and stuff here. So as we wrap up, I got a question for you, and I'm trying to do better at finishing these conversations with this. Tell me something, for lack of a better word, tell me something awesome about ReDiscover and what you guys are doing that people don't know that they should know.
We do so many awesome things.
That's when you just break out the scroll.
Right.
and I know I'm putting you on the spot. But.
No. The one thing that I can say, because like I said, it's so much, is that we serve all. There's no limit or boundary. We literally are intentional to help people, and that's just what I've seen. I give you an example. I had a community outreach initiative that I was doing in the community, and I arrived at the event. It was to provide resources and resource tabling and let them know who we are, and we were in the metropolitan area. And I came to the event. I got the tablecloth out. I spread it out, and I began to set up. And a family came up to me. Now, mind you, they didn't know me from a can of paint, right? But they literally came to me and said, "Oh my God, ReDiscover's here. ReDiscover's here." And I said, "Okay, like what? Like I didn't do anything, right?" It was like, "I just want to let you know that you all saved my life. I went through a lot of things." They told me their substance use story. And then they brought their daughters up there to the table as well and said, they watched me go through this and they was with me through the whole process. I've been sober for 3 years. ReDiscover saved my life. So thank you so much. So I got to leave one thing. I'll leave that, man.
That is a fantastic story. And I think goes back to what you brought up earlier, that we have to keep telling those stories so that they're not, oh, those are other people.
Yeah.
Because it's right here.
It is, and it's for everyone, every background difference, and we want to be intentional, meet people where they are, when we can.
All right, one last time, where can people find ReDiscover? How can they connect?
Yep, I'll tell you again. I know I said a little bit earlier, but I'll give you the address and everything. Of course, look, here we go. All right, so. Our main line, as I stated earlier, is the 816-966-0900, and give you our address here. Oh yeah, last thing, a couple things. Sorry about that. We have our 24-hour crisis line, 888-279-8188. If you want to make an appointment, it's the 1-844-994-HEAL, as I stated earlier, and then. We have locations all across the metropolitan area. I was a little farther back. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're good.
I was so we have locations all across the metropolitan area, but I'll give you the main building where we are is 1555 Northeast Rice Road, and that's in Lee Summit, Missouri, 64086. All right, but as I stated, we have different buildings, different services all across the metropolitan area, South Kansas City and city, so forth and so on. So.
Fantastic. Well, Demetrios, thanks so much for stopping by today. I appreciate it. I know this feels quick. I have like so many things I want to do, but I don't want to try to make people listen for 4 hours.
Yeah, no, it's all right, man. I appreciate it.
I don't think they'll do that.
No, I got you. I want to be mindful of people's time, but thank you for the time. I appreciate it, and thank you for the opportunity. And I look forward to seeing you again, my man.
All right, thank you. That'll wrap us up for this week. We'll talk to everybody next time.